Solo Leveling, Ragnarok. By Dang Du. Prologue. A world forsaken by its gods is nothing but delectable prey. Since ancient times, supreme entities known as the Outer Gods, or Iterum, have created numerous universes. Many Iterum, scattered across different dimensions, noticed that an owner of a distant dimension had vanished, and their eyes brightened from afar. They were indifferent to the death of their kin, and the only thing that mattered to them was the enormous amount of mana that remained in that world. The first to claim an ownerless power becomes its master. And so, began the War of the Outer Gods. A powerful screech pierced the dimensional rift that weaved together multiple universes. Using sheer force, the Iterum's followers forcefully ripped through the solid dimensional wall and came pouring out all at once. But a man stood before the outpour. With his entire body covered in a black aura, the greatest fragment of brilliant light, the monarch of shadows Sun Jinwu, opened his mouth. Rise. At his command, an army of millions, composed of angels of light and the shadow army, simultaneously raised their weapons, and before long, the war began. No matter how many invaders from the outer universe were killed, a seemingly endless number continued to surge forth. A tense and relentless battle raged for a long time, offering not a single moment to let one's guard down. There seems to be no end in sight. In fact, enduring this much is a miracle in itself. This war has been an uphill battle for us, right from the start. I agree. Our defenses would have been breached long ago without the Monarch of Shadow's help. The rulers, the six-winged angels, paid homage to Sun Jinwu. They were fragments of brilliant light, originally born as the messengers of God. One day, they realized the cruelty of their creator and became godslayers of their own accord. Eons ago, the God who created this world had divided the primordial light and darkness into 8 pieces each, thus creating fragments of brilliant light and monarchs. Since their inception, they had relentlessly pursued an endless war of killing and being killed, bound by predetermined destinies. Amid the unending cycles of war, countless lives were lost. Not even the lives of war commanders' fragments of brilliant light or monarchs were spared. However, any empty leadership position would eventually be filled by another. Whenever the astral body of a monarch perished or a fragment of brilliant light died, the primordial darkness or the primordial light that dwelled respectively within them sought out new candidates, creating more monarchs and fragments of brilliant light, all to maintain the balance of war. However, the purpose of the war was for the sole amusement of the brutal absolute being who wished for a never-ending conflict. Unfortunately, the truth was discovered after many eons had already passed. But eventually, the absolute being died along with all the monarchs, and peace seemed to have finally come after an exceedingly long war. However, the world was blindsided by an invasion from the opportunistic outer gods who felt the absence of the absolute being. Even now, followers of Iterum continue to be born. Meanwhile, our forces remain at a standstill. Since long ago, silver soldiers led by the rulers were born from the fruit of the world tree. However, the world tree eventually stopped bearing fruit after the death of the absolute being. Thus, replenishing the troops proved impossible. However, there was an exception: the king who manipulates death, the monarch of shadows. He and his legion alone were immortal. The power of creation may have disappeared, but death remained eternal. Had it not been for Sun Jinwu's shadow army continuously resurrecting after death, the war would have ended instantly, a sentiment echoed by the rulers. The result would have been the total annihilation of the world, a complete extinction. My lord, I bear bad news. Sun Jinwu's commander, Igris, urgently appeared before him. Our rear defense line has been breached. Where? Well, they seem to have targeted the area with the weakest magical power. Is it Earth? My apologies. Due to our forces focusing on the front, our rear defenses were overlooked. Sun Jinwu quietly sighed. Earth had barely regained peace, but it found itself exposed to yet another threat. It seems like another gate on Earth will open. The rulers muttered, cautious of Jinwu. There was a time when Earth faced an invasion by beings from another dimension. The rulers, the main culprits of the incident, rushed to offer excuses. But the situation now is different to our case. That's right. Our goal was to nurture Earth to protect it from the monarchs. But now, the sole objective of the Iterum is pure aggression. They're trying to disrupt us by breaking down the weakest point of the rear. My lord. We must quickly send reinforcements to Earth. Icarus cried. The ruler strongly opposed the commander's suggestion. Absolutely not. Splitting forces would shatter the delicate balance of power that's barely being held together. That's exactly what the Iterum wants us to do. If the front is breached because we tried to recover the rear, we'll surely face defeat. After hearing both sides of the heated argument, the Monarch of Shadows eventually made his choice. Baru. Gra. Your Majesty. The Ant King, who was happily tearing apart the limbs of enemies, responded to the call. Commander Baru. Awaiting your orders. I need you to take a trip to Earth. Whoa. Does that mean that? Sung Jinwoo nodded firmly. Correct. Looks like it's time to break Suho's seal. Baru's eyes widened eagerly with anticipation. Be swift and return promptly. Your wish is my command. Upon receiving his orders, Baru transformed into a beam of light and flew straight to Earth. Sung Jinwoo's silent gaze was fixed on Baru as he flew away, but his eyes soon returned to his approaching enemies. His gaze burned fiercely as he clenched his jaw. Come and get me, followers of the outer gods. The war continued to rage on.